welcome to Whiskey Whims with me, Stuart. It's that time of year again, and people are starting to look for gift ideas for whiskey lovers, friends or family who are into whiskey. So I thought I'd try and kind of aid that situation, because sometimes it can be quite difficult, and give my recommendations for gifts and some to maybe steer away from or avoid. None of this is advertised, no one's paid me to do this, these are just my own opinions, and these gifts are things that I find quite quirky or cool. So as always, if you like the content, please do subscribe. If you've got any feedback, leave it in the comments and hit the like button. So the first one is this little keyring by Whisky Editions, a guy called Andrew. This is made from a Glengoyne stave, so the stave off a barrel that was used for Glengoyne whiskey, and he's personalised it, he's engraved it with Whiskey Whims. Obviously you can get anything engraved on there within reason that the characters will fit. So I think this is a pretty cool little quirky thing just to have on your keys, and I think it's a nice kind of like stocking filler or even a nice little gift. I believe he also does pens from barrels, and he does a lot of other things. So I'll leave a link in the description and you can go check him out. But this was my favourite because it's a nice little small thing and I think it's well put together. I've had this for a couple months. To be honest, I was doubting how structurally sound it was going to be, and I kind of thought it might fall apart with my keys because I use them all the time. Nothing on the product, but more on how I use my keys. I drop them all the time as well. However, it's stayed relatively, there's maybe slight dirt on it, but that's probably expected, and you can still clearly see the engraving. So I think it's held up pretty well. It's been a good couple months, and like I said, I do think it's a nice quirky little treat to put in a stocking. So that's one little gift idea. Second idea would be glasses. Definitely for whiskey drinkers, glassware can be a good gift, especially if they're running low or they've maybe broke some, but I would always recommend Glencairn glasses. I've got two, these are not very clean, this one's not that clean. Two Acqua Vitae glasses here, and I would recommend Glencairn over other, just because they are a more robust glass. I think the Whiskey Tribe done a video on this, and I'll leave a link in the description as well to their video where they test out the different glasses, and this is the most robust. So you can knock this over and it's unlikely that it'll smash. But I know you get gift sets. There's branded gift sets from distilleries, and sometimes they have the big tumblers. They're nice little touches, but the Glencairn's definitely a more superior glassed gift if you want to give it to that kind of specialist whiskey drinker. So glassware. Also there's distillery miniatures that you get in some supermarkets. They'll come with maybe a 12-year-old, a 15 and an 18-year-old. I know Glenfiddich do this, and it's a nice little introduction to the distillery. These are good ideas for people who are just kind of getting into whiskey, but for more experienced whiskey drinkers or people who've been drinking whiskey for a while, I would direct yourselves to MasterOfMalt with Drinks by the Dram. They do little boxes of 4 or 5, and you can select your own whiskies to put in it for your loved one or whoever, or you can just do it at random and they'll select 5 or 4 whiskies. I can't remember how many it is. But once again, I'll put a link in the description to that. And I think this is a better way than the distillery options, because obviously you're only getting one distillery with the distillery whiskies, whereas MasterOfMalt, you're getting a selection of various whiskies, and that could be blends, it could be grain, it could be single malt, or Japanese, Scottish, Irish. So I think it's a cool little touch, and it's more aimed at someone who's right into whiskey. Another gift idea, and mainly this is the quirkiness of this, it's such a cool thing, is the Whisky Games domino set. I bought this a couple months ago as well. I think I've played maybe one game of it. It's more for kind of the gimmick of it. It definitely works. The dominoes definitely work. There's no denying that, but I like it for the gimmick, and I like it for the show, to be able to say, like, to people that these are made out of a whiskey barrel stave. And I've done a video of unboxing this. It's, as you can see, the dominoes curve, and that's because of the natural curvature of the barrel staves. So these are done by Matt. They're not that expensive. They're a cool thing to have on the shelf. They're a great little kind of conversation starter, and you can play dominoes with them. So I think they're funky, I think they're quirky, and I really do think they're that awesome. They're a cool little gift. And I think anybody would be happy to open this up on Christmas and be able to tell them that these come from a whiskey barrel, that they're all cut and they're all handmade, which is a nice little touch as well. Now, some things I'd say to avoid would probably be whiskey stones, or the stainless steel balls, maybe not so much, but a lot of people don't tend to use stones in their whiskey. And if your whiskey drinker friend or family is seriously into whiskey, they might not put stones in. So it might be a good kind of idea to gauge whether or not they cool their whiskey. If they do, then great, I'd go for the stones. But if not, and if they drink their whiskey neat most of the time, then I'd avoid the stones. They're more of just a kind of, they're just quite trivial. I wouldn't really waste your time with them. Other than that, the stones do their job, but like I said, if they don't drink with, if they don't cool the whiskey, then there's no point in getting them. Hip flasks as well. Hip flasks can be a good gift idea. You can get some that are engraved, some with different things like a sight glass on it so you can see the whiskey inside, all these different things. And I think hip flasks are a good idea, but I feel like almost every whiskey drinker has a hip flask. Now, I have about 3 or 4 hip flasks, and I seem to just be getting them every year because people say, oh, he drinks whiskey, I'll get my hip flask. This is one I'd avoid as well. If you're thinking about getting your loved one a whiskey gift idea, I'd just steer away from the whiskey hip flasks. Another gift idea that I think is pretty cool are these corks from Amazon. They are really cheap. I think they were about £10 or £8, and I got about 10 of them. I'll put a link once again in the description. And these are cool for when the bottles are dead, when their bottles have been killed off and you don't know what to do with the bottle, maybe you don't want to bin it. For example, this one has my 21st birthday written on it, and it's got my name on it, so I didn't really want to bin this, and I was thinking, oh, what can I do with it? Someone did mention making it into an infinity bottle, but I'd rather make it in a little light. And I think these are pretty cool. They're designed to look like a cork, and they fit in almost every bottle pretty well. They're good for the shelf or anything like that, any kind of showing off area that you have, whether it be a whiskey shelf or a whiskey room. It's just a nice little touch to add to that. And the last but not least whiskey gift idea that might be a little bit more expensive is the whiskey end barrel. I think that was £20 or £40, so it's a little bit more pricier than the other items that I've shown, but I think that's a good gift for someone who has a whiskey dedicated area, such as a kind of whiskey shelf outlay or a whiskey room. If they don't have one already, I think it really ties everything together. You can get different ones, so you can get different distilleries branded on it, and usually they're all genuine from the distillery, so it's pretty cool to get something like that. So that's me pretty much listed all the things that I trying to collect and bring together for whiskey gift ideas. It's quite hard because I feel like when you are looking for whiskey gifts, there's so many options, and it's hard to pick what's good and what's not. What have someone already got and what haven't they got? And I think some of the things that I've maybe listed, most people won't have, or most people won't think to buy. So I hope that's given you a good idea if you are thinking about buying some gifts for a whiskey lover, and I hope you do end up buying one of them because they are quite cool, some of those gifts. If you've enjoyed it, like I said, please do subscribe. I've been Stuart, this has been Whiskey Whims. I'll see you later and have a good Christmas.